5, 4, 3. So last week I made fun of your 12 goals. This week I'll give you a chance to maybe exaggerate a little and describe the nicest one you ever scored. Keep in mind you are not under oath, so have some fun with this.
Well, the nicest goal, the most memorable goal I ever scored was, this is a sentimental goal. I had taken a few years off from the game back in 2005 lockout season, and then the season prior to, I went back to the Kings in a tryout, signed a contract in training camp, actually scored my first goal at home with the Kings, and so I was pretty excited about that. It was against the Coyotes. Gretzky was coaching, so it was pretty significant to me.
And I see double Gretzky behind you. One of them is autographed. It says, I'm just kind of trying to squint here. It says, Ken Belanger, too bad we weren't at L.A. together. The Kings would have been that much better. That's what it says, right?
Yeah, that was a conversation me and Wayne had after he brought me into L.A. He was a little disappointed to get a chance to play down the wing with him, but fortunately, we do share this jersey together, and that's what really matters.
Hey, last week you were telling me about that, and this week I want to ask you about the rookie dinners you were talking about. Tell me the wildest story you ever had about one of them.
Well, pretty clean, wild story. Rookie dinner.
No. Let's keep in mind we can go a little bit over the top here. This isn't TV. This is webcast.
Yeah, you know what? We can go over the top as much, but certainly rookie dinners are pretty sacred within the room. The slogan, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and so the rookie dinners fall into the same code as what happens at the dinner stays at the dinner. But one of the fun stories, we were in Phoenix, and the team was all ready to go out, and Ray Bourque's a pretty reserved guy, and we'd sent Dave Vanderchuk home about 7:00 in a cab. He was tired, so we decided.
He was an old man. He had to go home, didn't he?
Yeah, we decided it was best to send him home, so we give the cabbie money with the address in his top pocket where he was going, what room number he was in, and paid the cabbie a little extra to make sure he got to his room. But we went out after to 70s bar, and we all walked in with the group, and 20 minutes later, someone asked, "Hey, did you see Ray?" No one seen Ray, and there was a second floor to the bar with a railing, and all the boys were downstairs, and all of a sudden, like a spotlight went on upstairs, and we looked up, and Ray was standing in the top balcony with a big 3-foot afro on. And if anyone knows Ray Bourque, he's a pretty reserved guy, but he had the big afro on, and it was pretty comical. The guys looked up, we talked to him after, and where the hell did you get that afro? And he paid the guy $100 to wear his afro for one lap around the bar for the boys, so it was pretty comical.
Hey, it's good money. Anyways, let's get right into it. Last week, I saw Milan Lucic and Jim Vandermeer get into it. I was thinking to myself, what benefit did the Boston Bruins get out of this? Let's say he wins the fight but breaks his hand. You lose Lucic for the year. He's a 28-goal scorer so far this year. He'll definitely score more. What do you think about this?
Well, it's a fine line, and we've talked about this before in the debate with the way Ovechkin plays. Does Ovechkin quit running around and hammering players? You can't take that other style. That's what makes him the player he is. So do you go out as a coach and say, Luch, go out there and, go ahead and get into a fight tonight? Absolutely not. But in the same time, he is a 28-goal scorer and a force-up player because he plays physical. And, fortunately, sometimes, guys challenge him and the player and character he plays, he answers the bell. And I think that's good. It's good for the team. The guys love it on the bench because they see their goal scorer stepping up to the plate and, answering the bell. And do you take that risk of getting injury? Absolutely. But that's part of the game. And the boys love it. He plays the way he does because that's why he's in the league. I mean, that's his style of game. He plays aggressive.
Let's say you're Sean Thornton and you're the fighter on the team sitting on the bench and you see this happen. Don't you kind of maybe question your job and say, why am I here if he's doing this himself?
No, you don't. Obviously it puts a little pressure. It depends how he does in the fight. If he didn't do good in the fight, then obviously you're going to step up to the plate. And also depends who he's fighting. If he's fighting another fighter, then, obviously it's up to Thornton to go out there and, answer the bell to the guy who he did fight to let him know that.
But he was fighting Jim Vandermeer. Guy's a known fighter, so Why? What would Claude Julien be saying to Sean Thornton on the bench after that happened? Would he be saying like, "Don't let this happen. Do not let our star player go out there and get his ass kicked"?
Well, it's kind of tough for him to control that because he's sitting on the bench and Lucic is out there every 2.5 shifts, so he can't control what happens during the game. Could he go out there and send a message to him, let him know that if you're going to fight somebody, it's going to be me? There's no question, but Claude Julien doesn't have to say anything. Thornton knows his role of the game, and his role is to protect the team and sort of police it. And when it happens, there's not much you can do at the time, but I'm sure the issue is addressed. But Lucic is a big boy, took care of himself.
You named Joe Thornton before. You said when you played with the Bruins and he'd get into a fight, it would fire the whole team up. Was there ever any thought that, well, what happens if he breaks his hand?
Well, that's a part of the game that everybody accepts the fact of injury. So that's not. I mean, is it a concern? But it's not a thought. It's part of the game. Guys go out there out of frustration and let go, and guys get pretty excited when they see the goal scorer going out there and get into a fight.
Datsuk and Perry earlier this season, Coach Mike Babcock actually said he almost had a heart attack when he saw Pavel Datsuk fighting. This is a little bit of a different scenario. Soft guy versus Corey Perry, who's a pretty tough guy along the same lines as Lucic. What would the coach be saying to a player if Datsuk got into a fight?
Well, you know what? It's great. Like you said, his jaw just about dropped because what the great thing is, it shows a passion. It shows his willingness to win, to do anything. And that's what guys want to see. They want to see their leaders willing to go to war. They want to see their leaders digging in. And usually the European guys are pretty quiet. So when you see them stepping up to the plate and showing the aggression and really doing anything and putting it all on the table, it builds a team. I mean, guys love seeing that. They want to see everybody's in for the ride.
Were you in Boston with Sergei Samsonov?
I was.
Well, what would happen if he dropped the gloves and got his ass kicked in a fight? Would they have been looking at you?
It really would depend who he fought. Obviously the code of the game, we've got the heavyweights fight the heavyweights, the middleweights go up to the middleweight. So Sergei Samsonov wouldn't have been fighting a heavyweight or a middleweight. He probably would have been fighting, a lightweight guy, so he would have been way out of my class. So it would have been against the code for me to go in and, go after whoever he would have fought. But, I mean, definitely send a message to who he did fight. Someone will have to step up to the plate. There's no question.
So last week we talked about the deadline and your experiences being on the move. This week, tell me what it's like for a player to join a new locker room mid-season.
That's great. Yeah, it's a great question because there's a lot of different scenarios. If you're a player, let's use Penner situation, going from Edmonton, a non-playoff contender, they probably won't be a playoff team for the next 2 years until they're, going to LA, team full of mid-season players, second, third year in the league, definitely on the right direction. Great goaltending. Going from Edmonton weather, LA weather. He's going to be making $5 million living in LA. You can't compare it. He's going to be walking from an old facility into a new facility. Couldn't get a better trade. Then you've got a guy going from Phoenix to Columbus. You're downgrading. You're going from a nice, beautiful climate, new facilities to Columbus. Not such a great city. So the scenarios of your setting is definitely a factor of the player. But at the end of the day, you're walking into a dressing room of all new players, but you've played against all the guys. So it's a little uncomfortable, but not really. It really depends. If you're a rookie, it's a lot less uncomfortable because you don't really know the players. But as a veteran player getting traded, guys are excited. You're in. You jump right in the flow of things, and you're ready to roll.
Well, what about if you're a guy, I mean, you're a friendly guy. You obviously have a good personality. But what about guys who are kind of keeping to themselves, guys who don't have great social skills? What would it be like for them to walk into a new locker room mid-season and have to join a group of guys who've been together since September?
Yeah, and you know what? That's, let's compare a guy like Samsonov. Very quiet player. Played with him in Boston. How long in Carolina? The last 5-6 years in Carolina?
Yeah, it's been a few years.
Yeah, I'm sure he was pretty comfortable. So, but there's got to be a couple Russians on Florida. So, they kind of tend to stick together and help each other out. So But the team knows that. Everybody's in the same situation. When a new guy comes in, everybody makes him feel as welcome as possible because everyone knows, everyone's been in that position before where you walk into a new locker room with 20 different strangers and completely different, elements. So guys are real receptive to helping guys, making sure they feel comfortable.
So what would it be like if you're a guy who's coming from a really good team, who's got a chance to win the Stanley Cup, going to a really bad team with no chance to win the Cup?
Yeah, it's discouraging. But at the end of the day, you're still getting paid. Your paycheck's coming in. You're still playing in the game. But I could imagine, I was never traded up. I was always played on teams that were sort of across the same board. But it would be. I mean, you're excited. Everyone's getting ramped up. The last 19 games of the season, guys are getting ramped up for the playoffs, and you get traded to a team that has no chance. But at the same time, it may be a great opportunity for the players being traded because he may have been on the third, fourth line of the team that's a contender. Now he's going to a team who's not in a playoff race where he may be, second line, penalty kill, maybe PP. So every scenario is different, and the guy's got to take the situation and make the best of it.
So we've been doing this thing called "You Never Played the Game. What the hell do you know?" Why don't we try it again today?
Let's go for it. So I got a couple questions.
Fire away.
All right. Who are the winners in this? Obviously not clearly deadline day, but deadline month.
I think the Leafs were one of the teams that definitely won. I think the Kings definitely did. I thought they picked up a great player in Dustin Penner, and they clearly needed some help for their offense. I like Dennis Wideman. I like where he went. He's definitely a guy who can help that team. They're in need of a couple guys to make their power play work a little bit better. A couple guys who can move the puck. They got that. And if you ask me the losers, I definitely think Montreal is a loser. Yesterday, last week, they just didn't really do anything to improve their team. They're a small group. Everybody knows they're small. And I think they're going to have a huge problem with it. Any team they play in the Eastern Conference, even if it was Washington again, but more so if they end up playing a team like Philly or Boston, who are two big, strong teams, I think they're going to get destroyed.
The Hawks are going to be between the life and death and making the playoffs. They've been red hot as of late, but still clearly of 8 seed. Will they make it?
I think they will. I just can't see the defending Stanley Cup champions not making the playoffs. I know it happened to Carolina back in 05-06 when they won the Cup. They didn't win the Cup. They didn't make the playoffs the following year, but this is a team with Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Patrick Sharp, Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook. Those are 5 guys who were Olympians last year. Those are 5 guys who you would depend on if need be. And I cannot see the Blackhawks missing the playoffs. If they squeak in 8th and have to play Vancouver, I don't think Vancouver's going to be too happy about that.
Does Ottawa's general manager, Brian Murray, deserve to keep his job? It's clear that the Senators are finishing to finish dead last in their division.
He doesn't deserve to keep his job. He didn't deserve to keep his job after the season started going sour for this team. Had a chance to improve them in the offseason, and he didn't. He got Sergei Gonchar. That wasn't enough, and now they're in 15th place in the Eastern Conference. They really, really, really need to rebuild, and I've always believed that if you're going to go through a rebuild, you cannot have the GM who ran the team into the ground doing the rebuild.
The Habs didn't do much in trade line day. Everybody thinks they're too small to win the East. You think they have a chance?
Man, I must have seen through your questions before because I already answered that. But I think they are too small to compete. Like I said, if they play a Boston or a Philadelphia in the first round, those are the 2 teams that defeated them in the last 2 years. I think they're in huge trouble. I just cannot see those guys, small group. I like Mike Camilleri a lot. Brian Giancha is a really good player, but without without some secondary scoring, without a big center, Scott Gomez is clearly not it. Thomas Plekanec is a good player, but I don't think he'll be great in the playoffs. And then you look at their defense, which has just been battered with injuries. Markov, Josh Georges, Hal Gill's not even healthy right now. Give it away Gill, as you used to call him. Not healthy right now. I can't see much happening with them this year. And I think that they made a huge mistake not going out and addressing some of their needs at the deadline.
Great. For someone who never played the game, not bad answers.
Hey, for someone who never played the game, I sure had a lot of time to follow the game. So maybe you could pick up on that.
I may have to go over some pointers from you.
Nah, I'm joking. You know the game inside out better than any of us do. That's why we do the code with you. What a wild week. Ken Belanger, have a good week. We'll talk to you next week. I'm Corey Landsberg. You've been listening to The Code on HockeyPrimetime.com.